way of very stylized, very glamorous. But when we started chatting while making those commercials, I realized that there was a lot more to Oshim. Then I saw his film Miss Lovely, and I was very impressed with the way he kind of takes his shots and the kind of eye he has for all the detailing and the art, the production design, everything that goes into it. And at that time, I was offered this movie where these other producers had come to me and they said that we've got the rights to make the film on Arun Gawli, and we'd like you to play Arun Gawli. And I was like, are you guys crazy? I mean, from what angle do I look like Arun Gawli? And but I said, okay, it's interesting, and I started reading about Arun Gawli. I didn't know much about him, and I found him quite fascinating as a character. But I hated the script. But I really hated the script that those guys had given me because it had nothing to do with his life. It was just, a commercial, potboiler, kind of unrealistic film that they wanted to do. And I said, if you're making a biopic, then it has to be a good one. And nothing came out of it. And I discussed this with Oshim long time ago. And then one day I just locked myself in a hotel room and I started writing down. I got quite obsessed with it and I started writing down a story, which I sent to Oshim just to get his feedback on it, and he loved it, and I'm glad he did because he doesn't like things very easily, and and then he said, okay, we're going to sit together, because if we make your film the way you've written it, we'd be doing it in 2 parts, so we've got to make one film, and then we sat down and started working on a structure. And all the producers who were with us started running away, and we were left with Oshim and a whole pile of a team that we had hired, who we had committed to that we were going to make this film, and we also realized that those producers did not have the rights to make the film, and then we had to go and acquire those rights, and from that, I think our journey began, and I think through that we got to know each other, and we decided what kind of film we really do want to make. And what kind of scale do we want to make this film at, and what kind of funding would be required to do it. And we do not want to compromise on just anything and everything by a studio telling you to put in an item number where it is not required, and stay as true to the story that we want to tell, which was not to glamorize or de-glamorize, but to let the audience make an opinion about the character we're talking about.
Yeah, I think that's more or less the way things came about. It was quite accidental, and I think the accidentalness of it, maybe neither of us thought about it that much beyond the point. And I think once we started working, we discovered that there was a chemistry because, I've come from a particularly anti-industry stance. Arjun comes from a very different space. But I think we had a lot of respect for each other's understanding of the subject matter. I think one of the things that I said to him up front is that I don't want to make a typical film. And he said to me, I don't want to make a typical film. So I think we were already on the same page when we started the project. And I said, I don't want to do a hero kind of thing. And, and I don't want to make a Bollywood gangster movie. I want to get into the period. I want to get into the atmosphere. I want to do it in a way where it's never been done before, and it's a risk. It's a big film. There are always typical ways of making a gangster movie. This one doesn't do any of that. I'm talking even internationally, the way you light a gangster. It's like a top light kind of shot. There's a certain way. I've avoided all top light in this film. There's no top light. There's none of that classic Marlon Brando kind of lighting. So just the whole approach of the film is very different. And I have to say that I never expected him to come with me all the way, and he really did. So I think that's the best kind of collaboration there can be when you actually work. And I think one of the biggest things for me was the fact that he had already engaged the writing. He had already engaged the process of thinking about Gawli as a character before I came on. So when I came on, I already knew that this guy's in it. It's not like just an ego project. He was already committed to the idea of who this character is, how he sits, how he and I that kind of commitment I didn't expect. And it's really rare. And for me, then when you see that, you want to work with somebody like that, I think.
That's great. I didn't know you wrote this. So, the teaser looks like there's a lot of research that's gone in every detail. But when you started researching, what were basically the avenues for you to research this character who's very much alive? It's the time of biopics, whether it's Dhoni or Neerja, but this is very different. And if I hear, this is not a biopic and not a gangster film, but it's something in between. It's a story. How did that process go?
Yeah, so the research was a lot, and if I talk too much about it, most probably I'll end up in jail. So I shouldn't. But yeah, you have to go. You have to go to where this world is. You know, you have to go and you have to find the people who belong to this world, and you know, talk to them. That's what we did. And of course, you had to get the rights and the permissions from the family. You know, also making it clear to the family that this is not something which is just going to be a film which is going to, you know, be a propaganda around the character, you know, where you're just going to be showing him as this good guy, or, you know, doing a different kind of an image for him. It's not an image building exercise. We are excited because of the story, because of the life he led, and that's what we want to really explore. And it took a lot of time to convince the family to do that. And fortunately, they came on board. They totally understood. And when Arun Gawli came out on parole and we had the opportunity to meet him, he really said, no, I don't want to be shown as a hero. You know, I tell my story the way it is, because this is the story of most of the people who come from our country, you know, who could go on whatever levels that they go to, you know, just to survive. And when you want to change and you want to bring about a change within yourself, do the systems really allow you to do that or not? And that's exactly what we wanted to capture through the film. And I think we did so by making it not a documentary. And of course, you kind of fictionalize a few things here and there from a cinematic point of view of storytelling. But more or less, it's based around true events. And that's what we kept it.
Perfect. I believe you've got, for the first time, some stills from behind the scenes to share with us. Would you like to? Yeah. Can we have the first one, please?
So yeah, actually, if we just go one by one, it's probably easier to talk to them and talk through them. I mean, this is a combination of images kind of from the movie, obviously a production still. So that's the story part of it. Arjun can probably talk a little bit about that. And then there's also stuff of how we shot the movie. I mean, it was quite a complicated thing. We built a giant set of Dagdi Chawl because we couldn't actually shoot inside the real Dagdi Chawl. Obviously, the residents living there, we would have had to kind of move out hundreds of families. So it was a very complex set. We built an exact replica of Dagdi Chawl in Warsaw. So that was like almost 7 buildings, life size. And a lot of the film takes place in that. It allowed us obviously to do things we could not do, like do a massive shootout during Ganpati, stuff like that, that you would not be able to do in a real location. But I am really not a big one for sets. Other than the Dagdi Chawl set, we were almost, the rest of it was all on location and in really grimy, scary locations, not usually places where you take a star or an actor that people recognize. Arjun was pretty on with that. We were shooting in Kamatipura, behind whorehouses and things like that, in places that you would not normally shoot a film of this scale. So you kind of see that through the stills.
You guys don't know about Oshim, but he loves like the worst places in Mumbai. I mean, he's taken me to locations like you cannot imagine. And there we are doing all these scenes. So the first still was from Dagdi Chawl. Can we go back to the first one just for a second? The first one that you showed, the one before this. And this is basically the BRA gang, which is Babu, Rama, and Arun, and I don't know why and that's why they call the gang BRA. I didn't think they realized it spelled out to be bra, but I think that's basically it. Those are the 3 guys who basically are best friends and make that gang.
You can go to the next.
Go to the next.
This is Maqsood's Den, and basically it's an Eid sequence where everybody is kind of called, and it's very interesting. While I was researching it, even people who come from this lifestyle of being what we call gangsters or the underworld, they have their own rules as well. And one of the rules is that everybody during festivals, meets as friends and sees if there can be a compromise or if there can be kind of, any kind of negotiation. And they meet absolutely like that. They look after each other, wish each other, and then they leave. And as soon as they leave, they are enemies again, sworn enemies. But and the second rule is that they don't attack anybody who is your kin, like your blood relation. So they don't attack family members of gangsters. They'll attack everybody else, but they won't do that. So it's kind of a reference of all of that.
I mean, a lot of this stuff is actually far more researched than I would say like a standard film. The research is kind of insane on this project. I'll take you through some of it, even in terms of clothing. I mean, I grew up in this city, so I feel a lot of the films that have been made in Mumbai or Bombay have not been made by people who've grown up here. I've grown up in seeing these things, seeing these spaces, and I feel somewhat that I've always felt the detail missing. It always feels very generic, the gangsters, and actually they're not generic. If you're a gangster that comes from Lal Bagh, you have a certain style. If you're a gangster, you come from Dongri, you have another style, and another way of speaking, and another way of hanging out, and the way you wear your glasses is different. And I think that's the kind of level of detailing we got into in this film, so that when you're in that world, you're actually absorbed into the atmosphere of the time. It's not just like, acha, everyone's a gangster. Each guy has his own form, in a way. And you will kind of see that through the pictures. Go to the next one.
Next one, please.
So this is my love interest in the film, who's playing Asha Gawli. Her name is Aishwarya Ramesh. She's a wonderful actor from down south, from Chennai. And she's done a fantastic job in the film. Her growth and her thing. And actually Asha Gawli herself is a very, very fascinating character. She's gone through so much and has held the whole family together because, he was never there. He was hardly ever there. He was hardly around. And so she plays a very, very pivotal part in this film. And
I think one thing which was interesting about Aishwarya casting her, very non-typical casting, of course, because again, I come, like I said, from a more independent space. We could have always cast a more glamorous, more, familiar face. But what I think, and that's the kind of thing that I think Arjun was really backing on this project, which I have to say was something which really gave me some kind of commitment as a director, because you basically say that let's go with someone who looks like Asha Gawli, not someone who looks completely different, who has no relationship. And what's, for me, for us, a great sense of praise was the family themselves, the daughters themselves, and Asha Gawli herself saying, wow, she looks a lot like me. She looks almost exactly like me when I was younger. And all the salwars and all that stuff, all of those things have actually been taken out of Asha Gawli's own family albums. We just replicated the style. So, there's a sense of authenticity with this.
He would get, I think we blew up some 18 washing machines, because he wanted the clothes to age on a certain level. And then he says, but it doesn't look right, it doesn't look right. And he said, what have you been doing? I said, Oshim, take it easy. You've blown up 18 washing machines. So he said, but why are they washing it in washing machines? At that time, there were no washing machines. You have to wash it with your hands. So the whole costume department had to go back and wash those clothes with their hands and get that kind of aging. And that's the level of detailing Oshim works on. And he will not shoot if the shirt isn't right, So you'd be standing on set and he would just not shoot it. So till he gets it, exactly the texture and everything that he needs. Yeah. And I think that is painful when you're going through it, especially when you become a producer on the film. But but I think when you see it in the end and the end result, you don't want to have it in any other way.
Yeah. That shirt's a character in itself.
Yeah, those shirts are amazing. I want all those shirts. Yeah, they all been stitched actually from the time. None of these things are available, and the girls we had on this were amazing. They were going to small towns and getting fabric that they don't print anymore so that they could make these clothes. So a lot of that. And I think one of the things, just coming back to the shirt thing, I've always had a big problem with when I watch a Bollywood movie is that why is the star wearing the thing that looks like it was just made and all the extras look like they're sweating? I always had a big problem with this. Like, if everyone's a gangster, everyone's in the same space.
Right.
And that's something I told Arjun. I said that, we have to be in the same space. Otherwise, you're always going to look like you're standing above all the other characters that are in the room. And that was a big problem. So I think that's something, these are the kinds of things that we were really on in terms of the style of the film. So you're immersed in it. He becomes the character. You don't think, oh, it's Arjun throughout the film. You lose yourself in the film.
I want to make a point on that, Arjun. Exactly what he's talking about. Usually the work that you do are made to stand apart. You're the star. You are sort of at the center. And here somehow, how is that process to sort of not just adopt the character, but become a part of the entire set?
I try to do that with every film. I mean, you try to do it, the level of, here you're playing a character who, is alive, and you have to kind of look like him, there has to be a resemblance. You're playing somebody. So that becomes different. Otherwise, you're usually playing a character who's fictitious completely and you don't know. So you try to imbibe whatever those qualities are, and of course then that level of detailing is not really that much until unless that character is very, very well defined. You try to do it with every film, but as I said, not everybody goes through that level or that effort to make it happen. I think the first challenge for Daddy was, will I be able to look like Arun Gawli?
Yeah.
And I think before we even committed to each other, we did a look test. And we put some prosthetics on and, we kind of worked towards it. And when we saw it and we just shot it on an iPhone, we were like, wow, this just like came alive. And that's what became really, really exciting. So that was the first level of encouragement you got. And then to live up to it, by creating, by casting the rest of the film, by creating that world and being able to just blend in became the key. So we got these amazing makeup artists from Italy, Sergio, Simone and Ariana. They all came down from Italy. They spent, I think, 4 months here with us, working on it. We had Jess Lee, who did the cinematography, who's a DOP from Canada, who came down, and she was a girl who was shooting a gangster film, and then that was so we can go ahead with those pictures. Yeah.
Go forward. You can see them. Go forward.
Next.
Yeah, just some more stuff of the period of the time, Ramanak, Arun Gawli.
So the film goes from the 60s and goes all the way till today. And so that's kind of the 70s.
Yeah, just some stuff, the kind of stuff that you can't shoot in a real chawl, basically. Things exploding and, like fun stuff, which you can't do.
And the Marutis.
Yeah. Maruti, it's very difficult to get Maruti vans like that. I think we blew up the last
shocking.
few.
You can't find a Maruti van when you need one, to shoot.
Go forward, I think. This was actually a good example. I just wanted to show you the kind of locations we're shooting in. That's in Kamatipura. It's the back of a sweatshop, illegal sweatshop, actually run by real gangsters. So it was quite strange because we were shooting this gangster movie and then we had real gangsters landing up on set threatening us. So that was a whole other level that we had reached in production, I think. If you go to the next shot, actually, in the next image, you'll see, I think, no, sorry, it's not in the right order, but okay. Oh, you can go forward.
That's Nishikant Kamath, who's playing.
Go back.
Who's playing the investigating officer, Vijayakar, in the film, who has a bone to pick with Gawli, and whoever knows Gawli's stories knows that he had this one guy who kept going after him.
Mm-hmm. And he's also aging through the film, so we had to keep track of everybody's ages. Like they were 30 years old. You're 60 years old, you're shooting out of sequence, you're shooting with prosthetics in the middle of Kamatipura, 12 hours in the heat. Not an easy film to make,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you can see that.
Go to the next one.
This is when we came into the 80s.
Go back. So this is just again more images from the time, from the period, shooting again on real locations. Just getting a lot of the texture of the city into the film. Then there's a bunch of stuff that's behind the scenes. You can just go forward. This character plays Hilda, who's one of the girls that actually ends up, in the story, ends up betraying Ramanayak. Oh, I didn't have to tell you that. I can't. Okay, sorry. But she does it in a very interesting way. Okay. This is some interesting stuff behind the scene in terms of just locations where we're shooting, all the docks, smuggling stuff in the rain. Quite crazy. Then go forward. Okay, they're a bit in the wrong order, but I guess we could just.
So this is basically just the vibe of the film. You see the lighting, the difference, in era and periods. And
Arjun, that was a great producer moment 30 seconds back.
Actually, I'm just looking at all these stills and I'm just thinking, how the hell am I going to work in another movie? Really, I've really actually been spoiled, because you kind of get to do what you want to do and do it in a really, really amazing manner, where you really actually, Oshim being the purist that he is, and me having to don my, producer hat at the same time, the actor, and at the same time think about the audience who we are making the film for, because finally you don't make a film to just watch it on your own, and you want to connect with the audience. You want the people from Dagdi Chaul to the people in Punjab to connect with this movie, and so to have that kind of clarity, and I think the combination worked really, really well. And when you see stuff like this, you're like, damn, will I ever get an opportunity to work on a film which has this kind of matter, which has this kind of styling, which has this kind of, layering, and so many complex characters, such great storytelling that goes back and forth, and has got a thriller vibe to it. The film won't be more than 2 or 5 minutes long, and to pack everything into that, and at the same time make it extremely accessible to everybody was, I think, the biggest challenge. And I think we kind of have achieved that. That we'll only know once the film releases. But the process and to get this, like you just see these images, you don't see these kind of images. Every image, and this is just normal stills being shot on while the filming's happening, And while me, myself watching it, I get surprised. So I'm sure it would be something unique for people to see.
Ashim, I'm not surprised at the authenticity. Even in Miss Lovely, it's just something that, but we expected and were thrilled to see it. But in terms of treatment, Miss Lovely was still an independent film, and it was made for, it premiered at Cannes and went on to win however many festivals, awards, national award. This is a big film. So how do you keep the authenticity of your writing and your characters and yet tell a film that is not just talking to the Dagdi Chol or the people who know of Arun Gawli, but internationally can actually understand where you're coming from?
I think that's, to me, like what's really an exciting thing about this film. It's really exciting for me. I've always been kind of, in a way, cushioned by that international thing. I can always make films for a certain kind of international audience because I come from that space. For me, what was exciting here is, can I make a movie about a folk hero that, people that live in Dagdi Chaul or just the working class that think of Gawli as a folk hero, can they watch that? Can somebody at Cannes watch it? Can somebody, that would be truly amazing. That would be truly exciting. That it can cut across all those lines, that we're not dumbing it down, and at the same time it's super accessible. And then if somebody wants to watch it who's more nuanced, they're watching all the layers, they're seeing the layers, somebody else may not be seeing it. That, I think, and we both really wanted a film like that would stay true to the story and to the space, and not just suddenly. And I think that's one of the issues, frankly, I'll be blunt, that I had with the first set of producers when we came on. The first thing I told Arjun is like, man, we can't do like an item number here suddenly in the middle of this. Like, it's just wrong. It's not correct for this film. And if I wanted to do that kind of stuff, I would have done it when I was 20 years old. I'd be already directing like 50 films like that. That was not the idea. The idea was, it was true to this. And you have the real material. You have a guy who's willing to give you his story, that he's able to call himself Arun Gawli in the movie. Why would you try and make it generic, So that's really where I was coming from with this.
Yeah. Do we have more?
And I think we got that combination right. I think the whole every time you go out there to make a film is you want to make a film with a sensibility which you're not going to, when you watch the film, cringe. A lot of films I've done where I cringe and I'm like, oh damn, why did I do that? And now at least with the opportunities that you get in life, you can, say, okay, do this, do less work, but do the right work and, work with the right people. But at the same time, there's a responsibility. A film is not about, as I said, for a film which is to be indulgent and made only for me to watch at home and say, look at this, how I worked on this, and harp about it. The film is, you're expecting an audience to come there, pay for a ticket, and, walk out of there feeling something, taking something back, and you have to give back. And so you have to be very, very clear about that. What happens mostly when we do international films or films for festivals, they become very ambiguous, they become very, indulgent in many ways. This did not give us that luxury because when you want to make a film like that, you could do it, but you have to shoot it in a room, But when you make a film of this scale, you have a responsibility, and a film which is true to an audience that is huge, that goes to which Arun Gawli has his own following who are going to come there. You have to be true to them. You have to be true to yourself. You have to be true to the budget, And you got to kind of think about all those things, put them into perspective, and say, are we being indulgent at this point in time? Then we should pull the reins, And when we need to really go for it, do it. What's important in this whole combination was the vibe, the world, and I think that Osham is created beautifully with the kind of people, the team, everybody who came on to the film. He was so responsible in bringing so many of those people onto the film who we worked with, And my job was always to make sure that we are not disconnecting from the audience, that if I can't understand it, or I don't know why you're taking this shot, or dude, don't do it, because I don't know what's going to happen. And Osham is very, very different in the way he takes his shots. This film doesn't have one OS. I've never, like an over-shoulder shot of a close-up of another guy while talking. I could be sitting here, talking here, and then the next shot's going out there. But then the way it's cut and it comes together, in fact, Deepa, who's our editor, first when she saw the footage, she's like, God, how am I going to cut this? And now it took her 2 months to just figure out what he was planning and how he was trying to tell the story. I could see it, but for her to also get into the groove of it and for it to be seamless, it takes time. So when you're trying to do something new and different, but at the same time making sure you're not alienating anybody was actually the combination that we wanted to get. And hopefully we've achieved that. That's what was the key.
I think achieving that combination as a director and with that vision, with this subject, was, like you said, a daunting task, but also a beautiful challenge that you've adapted to. But I want to know, as a producer of something like this, I mean, we hear day in and out that independent films are not, this is not independent, but it's not something with a big banner backing you and, you have the whole plan. Did you have a plan on day one? Did you...
It's my banner. It will be a big banner soon.
It is Kundalini Pictures. It's a big banner. It's beautiful. No, but did you have a plan on day one of the life or the journey of this film?
I said, I want to make this movie. I want to make it with Osham. There's nobody else I'm going to make this film with. If he had said no, I wouldn't have made the film. And all the people, as I said earlier, in the beginning of our journey, had left us. There were a lot of people who had worked a lot, a long time, and had stuck with us and had not got paid. And there was a responsibility towards that. Of course, there was also a kind of an obsession about making the film myself. And so I said, okay, whatever it is, we'll start the movie. We will do it. We will see how it goes, okay? And we'll run with it. And I'm grateful to the whole team to have been that committed around it. So yes, it was done in a very independent manner because there was no studio backing, okay? It was not an indie film because it doesn't have the scale of that, okay? but we are trying to shoot it in a thing. So I don't think anybody's really done that. It was just pure passion that drove this film, and I'm glad it did, because it ended up being extremely enriching, and is something which I think I've learned so much about production, about how what goes into making a film, if you really want to make it correctly, and I think created wonderful relationships through the process of doing that. I know the kind of people I would definitely be using in my films going forward, and how we would be going forward with that. And a lot of people who I will never work with, at the same time, because they just cannot get it. They're not passionate enough. So I would only work, what this film has taught me is to work with people who are only passionate. And then commercially what it does and what happens, that we will see when the film comes out.
I can't believe that, Osham, you've made the next film.
I can move on.
Sorry.
That's Lee being funny. We got some stills in here which have been slipped in quietly. Just go back for a minute, and one more back. So this is the set we built, the Dagdi Chol set. You can see it, at night as well. So we spent a lot of time on this set. Also, I was very particular about the kinds of light. There was a certain type of sodium light at a certain point in Bombay growing up, and then it changed to tubes at a certain point. So a lot of the films also color-coded like that, so the eras without having to resort to cheap like sepia toning and all that kind of stuff. It actually is the way the light works in the films. So just go forward. Keep going. Yeah, that's just at night. You can go forward. Okay. We can talk a little bit about Arjun.
No, we shouldn't talk about this one.
Yeah, some of this is actually from the film itself. Maybe we shouldn't talk about it yet. This too.
Yeah, so this image, this is a crazy image. And Osham, I remember, told me, while we were sitting one day and we was working on the script together, that I have this image in my head about, him having his child and a gun in the hand at the same time. And I said, Osham, that's really filmy, yaar. You know what I mean? And it can be like, a gun and a gangster with the baby and all of that. But he said, no, you don't understand it. I have a different way of seeing it. And how this scene actually happens and what the mood of the scene is and where he's placed this. When you all watch the film, please, you will remember, this conversation. It's so apt and it so beautifully comes in, and it's so poignant for the story, the way it moves forward. But you have to watch the film. So these imageries are very, very strong. You don't see stuff like that,
And I also like the idea, like what happens, right, when a gangster is, and very few gangster movies deal with this. What happens when you're in the midst of a gang war and you have a child? Like, it's an amazingly dramatic thing. And no gangster movie deals with that. Like, just dealing with a family on an everyday basis is dramatic enough, right? So I'm saying, like, what happens when you're actually also fighting a battle and suddenly you have a child and you have to deal with the domestic and you have to deal with this outside world. It's something else entirely. It takes it to a different level, I think, We can go forward. These are just some of the images from, is that it?
That's it, I think.
Okay, I think we can jump forward a bit. I think this repeats. Go forward. Yeah, that's Jess. Talk about this a little bit. Actually, this is a film that had 2 DOPs on it. Jess shot most of it, but because we shot over 3 schedules, quite challenging actually for a director to have 2 DOPs, especially with such a strong style. Right. I developed a lot of that style with Jess, who's a French Canadian. It was also a very big film for her. She's come from a much more indie space. And Pankaj Kumar was the second who just shot Rangoon and he shot Ship of Theseus, a lot of films. And he was the second DOP who worked on it. So that's also amazing because when you look at the film now, it's really seamless. You can see some more. I think there's some repeats here. Forward. Oh, and go forward, please. That's Pankaj shooting now. So some of it is shot by him there. Go forward. Talk about this. Again, situation where you're shooting in real locations.
These locations are incredible. I didn't even know they existed. They're like people living, and they haven't changed over years. You know, there are people who are tailoring out there. You see a lot of Nike stuff come out of there and a lot of Adidas coming out of there. Okay. And all that's going on in the background. And there's a lot of embroidery, beautiful embroidery that goes towards to France and to all these places. And in fact, Rama, who's one of our thing, one day we were shooting on this day, and there was this charpai, and they put the weave on it, and you know they kind of do the embroidery on that charpai. They've got the net, and then they do the embroidery on it, and on that they put a chadar so it doesn't get spoiled. And Rama thought it's a bed, and he went and he sat on it, and he went through this embroidery. This guy had spent, I think, 4 months, okay, doing embroidery on, and he went bang right through that thing. And I've never seen a guy look so distraught.
Yeah,
but the karigar who was there, I mean, he just held his head. He said, 4 mahine, 4 mahine. 4 mahine ke kaam ka aapne kya kar diya? And this is gangster paradise. Yeah? So you don't even want to mess with these guys.
You don't want to rip anyone's embroidery in a place like that. No, you don't. And actually, we did end up having to deal with the repercussion of it quite badly at the end of the. But we will get into that some other time, I think.
I think this is all very exciting. It looks great. Next steps. I mean, we're waiting to see it. Do we have dates? Do we have a release?
So yeah, I think one is definitely to take it to Cannes, and that's where hopefully we will go first, and then after that, it's such a jumble of dates. There's so many films we made, so you guys kind of have to find the right date. But I think you will see the film in July. That's what looks very realistic right now. I think by mid-July we should be. We'll give you a date in about a week or two, but I think by mid-July we should be ready to come.
So are you planning, and of course, I mean, I'm not surprised if we're going to see this in Cannes because, I think all of your films have, the last two, been there as well, right? No, not
only
John
Miss
and
Lovely.
Jane.
John and
Miss
Jane was
Lovely.
Berlin.
John and Jane was at Berlin?
Berlin, yeah.
Yeah. So do you ever feel that, once you're opening up the film over there or showcasing it there, there's a certain sort of slot that the film gets in when you come here to do a theatrical release, or is this also going to be the first time when you're going to?
Well, it's a film which we've been talking about. It's a film which I think is compatible to both, and I think that is what we went out to make. So yes, we're not going to be apologetic about it and say, oh, this is a film that goes to Cannes, so it's going to be this kind of a film, or be pseudo about it. But and at the same time, we're not going to be saying that this is a film which is a story of a guy who comes from grassroots of India. This is the story of that man. We're telling that story in the most truest way that we can. The teaser which you've seen, okay, has got the kind of reaction which I think kind of puts the faith into us that what we went out to do was the right thing. Yep. When your driver comes up to you and says, "Dasu hai," okay, and then you have, intellect who you think, from the industry or whatever, who will say, "Wow, I've never seen something like this in this genre. This is very, very unique." So you have both aspects of society kind of there, and that's what we want. We don't want to make any rules or boundaries for a film, and I don't think any film should have any rules or boundaries towards them.
We have about 10 minutes, so we're going to open up for questions. Can you please introduce yourself, sir?
I am Jyoti Venkatesh.
I know Jyoti, how are you?
When you decided to produce the film, did you make it a point to see Dagdi Chaul in Marathi, where Makarand Deshpande had played the same role? And number two, were you also a little bit scared about the political repercussions and the censor backlash that the film may get when it is thrown to censor board?
Yeah. Oh my God, now you made me think about all of these things. But Initially, yeah. I mean, the first thing is that, you think that this is going to be a film which could run itself into a lot of controversies. And before we even started filming in it, we got into quite a bit of trouble, which we're still dealing with. It's not something that's going to go away. But I think we've got a tremendous amount of support. And I must say this, from our Mumbai police. Our Mumbai police really, really supported this movie. They did not say, oh, this is an Arun Gawli story and we won't let you shoot, especially when you're shooting on real locations, where you're going into all of that, where a lot of that could be disrupted. So I think it was really amazing and it was very surprising and we're very grateful to them for the kind of liberty they gave us to make the film. What was your other question? Sorry?
Whether you saw Dagdi Chaul, the original Marathi.
Yeah, so Dagdi I saw. I haven't seen the film, but I knew that they had made this movie, and Makran looked very much like him in the film as well. But the people who saw the film knew that was not a biopic. It was a film that was a love story based inside of Dagdi Chaul. So that was the difference. But what was encouraging from it was that film was made, I think, in a budget. A friend of mine produced it, Sachin Ahir, who again is actually Arun Gawli's nephew. And he made the film in, I think, 2.5 crores, and that film ended up doing 22 crores in the regional thing. So hopefully I get some of that audience back into the theaters. So that was a good kind of a barometer of the kind of popularity Arun Gawli has. And the third question was?
Censor repercussions and the political pressures, but you have the permission from the family, so there is no tension.
No, that's fine. We've got the rights. We've got, it's all done on that level. We've got their blessings and their support. But from a censorship point of view, I don't know, man. They never cease to surprise you. So once we reach that level of getting the film censored, we'll figure out what's going to happen.
And a big compliment to Ashim and Arjun, the actor, because I couldn't believe that it is the same Arjun Rampal who is in front of us as Daddy.
Thank you. Thank you, Jyoti.
See, after what happened with Leela Bansali on the sets, and you guys are handling a very incendiary topic, and you had the guts to ask the family for the rights, and thankfully you got it. But my question is that, and this person is still alive, going back and forth between jail. Now, did you, or have you encountered, or did you think, that you may, handling an issue where you could have probably just not taken those permissions from the family because this gentleman is alive and he's a gangster. He could say, nahi, mujhe yehi depiction chahiye mera, nahi to tumhari picture nahi chalegi. So did you anticipate those kind of reactions and take some actions around it?
Yeah, so it wasn't easy to convince the family, because it is very sensitive. You're going to go into his past, you're going to dig in there, and these are, you don't know, he's scared legally what implications it can have on him. And therefore, we have to be, very clear about how the film progresses. So you take incidents that is in public domain, which people are aware about. Of course, a little more from the family, from a research point of view, okay, which is how how he really is, how people look at him. And one thing we mustn't forget is, why is this film called Daddy? Because that's the nickname that's been given to Arun Gawli by his people. He's not a bhai. He's not, what do you call it, a don or a thing. They call him Daddy. That means he has a heart somewhere which he has touched a lot of people's lives. And I think that's the human side of his story also, which was what we got from the family. The incidents that have happened, which is in public domain, okay, are in public domain, okay. The way we have, the structure of the film is in such a manner that it is from people's point of views. So it's not him saying, oh, I did this. It's a character's point of view. Yes, hello?
हेलो सर.
Yes.
सर, आई एम रमेश राव फ्रॉम फिल्म बाजार मैगजीन. मैं उसी एरिया में रहता था, भाईकला में. मैं वहीं बड़ा हुआ हूँ. ये 15-20 साल पहले की स्टोरी है. करेक्ट सर, ओशन जी? तो जब भी कुछ किसको डेथ हो जाता, किसको शूट आउट होता, मेरे एक बिल्डिंग के सामने से उनको लेके जाया जाता था, जयराम श्री राम बोल के. हम लोग छोटे थे, देखते थे सब शूट आउट. तो क्या इनको, मेरे क्लास में एक लड़का था, वो बोलता था यार, वो लड़की दगड़ी चाल में रहता था, वो उनको सोने नहीं मिलता था, इतना शूट आउट होता था. वो सवेरे स्कूल आके बोलता था. तो ऐसा कुछ सीन आपने किया है क्या जहाँ दगड़ी चाल में शूट आउट होते हैं, और कोई वहाँ के जो लोग रहते हैं उनको भी लेके आपने कुछ किया है ऐसा?
हाँ,
तो
उन लोगों के साथ पहली बात तो आपको मिलना पड़ता है जो वहाँ पर रहे हैं, वो जो उस पीरियड के पार्ट थे, जिनका वहाँ पर एक्सपीरियंस रहा है. तो उन लोगों से हमारी बातचीत हुई थी. उन्होंने कहा है कि कितना डेंजरस था वो पीरियड, जब गैंग वॉर्स हुआ करते थे. और ये 90s, लेट 80s और मिड 90s तक जो पीरियड था वाज फॉर मुंबई अ वेरी वेरी स्कैरी पीरियड, बिकॉज इट वाज वेरी वेरी अंडरवर्ल्ड ड्रिवन. अभी काफ़ी सफाई हो गई है, सब अभी बोलते कि अब तो वाइट कॉलर बन गए भाई, वो काम नहीं करते. तो आई थिंक एवरीबडी, मगर वैसे क्यों बने, वैसे वो उन्होंने क्यों किया? क्योंकि द थिंग इज, व्हाट इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट इज, व्हाट पीपल शुड अंडरस्टैंड इज कि द मिल्स जो थे ना वहाँ के, दगड़ी चौल वॉज मिल वर्कर के घर थे वहाँ पर. जब मिल स्ट्राइक पर गए, व्हेन द स्ट्राइक हैपेंड देयर, लॉट ऑफ पीपल गॉट अनएम्प्लॉयड, लॉट ऑफ पीपल डिडंट नो व्हाट टू डू, एंड द यूनियंस क्रिएटेड दैट, एंड दैट्स व्हाट क्रिएटेड द अंडरबेली ऑफ द अंडरवर्ल्ड इन मुंबई. तो अगर हम किसी को काम दे, किसी को उनकी रोजी रोटी आ रही है घर पे, तो वो बंदूक क्यों उठाएगा? वो बंदूक तभी उठाएगा जब he has to survive for himself. तो आई थिंक विदाउट जस्टिफाइंग टू मच, और फिर एक होता है कि चस्का लग जाता है पावर का, जब आप पावरफुल हो जाते हो और सब आपकी सुनते हैं, तो वो भी एक नशा है. और उस तरीके से फिर किस तरीके से वो बढ़ते रहते हैं. पैसा का नशा आ जाता है जब आप पैसे कमाने लगते हो, और आसानी से आप बिल्डर को फ़ोन कर रहे हो, बोल रहे हो कि बॉस प्रोटेक्शन चाहिए तो उतने पैसे दे दे. तो वो जो पीरियड है वो सब तो दिखाया है, क्योंकि दैट्स ट्रू टू द पीरियड.
Oh, yeah.
Hello.
Right.
Hi, I'm Gitika. I teach TV production and TV entertainment in MIT University, Mumbai. So my question is, there are two types of audience. One is PVR का crowd and another is Getty Galaxy का crowd. So आपको क्या लगता है, ये दोनों टाइप का crowd होल्ड कर पाएंगे आप?
Yeah, I think that's the idea. That's what I was saying earlier about the film, is that for us, I think the success would be if it can cut across different kinds of audiences. And I think for me, the hope is quite ambitious that like maybe we can think of a different kind of Hindi film. Like everything doesn't have to be either it's PVR or it's festival or it's, like a big 500 crore film and that has a different aesthetic. Like why do we think in such simple terms? Like why can't there be more overlap like there is in other industries where we have something which looks beautiful and is still really big, or something that's very intense and it's still very commercial? I'm saying, why are we stuck to these old categories? I think it's time to start moving on and start creating, more spaces for what Hindi film can do. That's my hope.
We have seen different films, like Once Upon a Time in Mumbai. So Kangana Ranaut was very glamorous, and your Asha Gawli is very simple and sober and decent, like Next Door Girl. Another D Company. So D Company was not commercially hit, but Once Upon a Time in Mumbai was commercially hit because of songs and looks, and so that's why I'm asking. So fine, I got
Things
my
have
answer.
changed. Well,
So,
yes and no. If you look at the arc of the industry right now, I think everybody in this room knows that there is no calculated guess.
Yeah.
The things that we all know, all the glamorous stuff that's supposedly surefire hit, complete washout. Films that are really small, which you don't expect anyone to watch, they've done 10 times their business. I think the model is changing. I think we have to be...
No, and you see, I would also say that there are films like Rang De Basanti, okay, which kind of, I think is a good example to give, where it went to two different kinds of audiences, and both of them understood it. Why? Because it did not alienate people. हम लोग क्या करते हैं कि हम बोलते हैं कि अच्छा ठीक है ये पिक्चर है ये this is the star of the movie, this is the heroine of the film, this is the budget of the film, put so many songs into it. You know, we kind of package our films mostly and say this movie, so make it Punjab friendly, make it South friendly, make it Mumbai friendly. You know, you kind of favor the circuits that give you the maximum amount of commercial success, and you kind of put things in accordingly. This film doesn't lend itself to that. This is a true story. You know, you have to be true to the character, but at the same time, we cannot make it really, really inaccessible. And we've tried to do that. Picture क्या करती है box office पे, how many people like it, कितने जूते पड़ेंगे, that you end up knowing only on that Friday that the film releases.
All right. Arjun, it's been 17 years. I wanted to say, you were amazing in Moksh, and that was your best performance till date. That is your best performance till date. I hope कि Daddy ये जो opinion है वो change कर पाए. All the best.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. I think we're at the end of our time. Is there any last question? Pressing question? Okay, last question for the gentleman in the front.
Can you give him a mic?
Hi. Just a quick question to Arjun. The kind of preparation you did for this role, I'm sure you did a lot of involvement in terms of method acting. You know, you try to internalize the character a lot. Were there any kind of psychological effects while playing the character, and you know, what you felt the most, and how did you overcome that?
I think you should ask my family that. You know, no, not really. I mean, I was very scared while playing him, and you know, I used to keep asking Oshim, "Am I doing it right? You know, I hope I'm doing it right." It wasn't like, "Oh, this is the character," and I'm walking onto the set like that. I think it kind of, as you keep getting into it, and as you keep saying those lines, and you start, you know, working with the people around you, it wasn't that, oh, this is the only way. Sometimes I would kind of go in a totally different direction and just feed off people. And I think the atmosphere that is created for an actor to go there, you know, sit, what he's wearing, you know, all of that, it just kind of brings that and helps you get into it. Because the minute they would say cut, there would be 10 people with checks behind my back to sign. So, you know, I mean, so, I mean, you went through all those different kind of things. But yes, somewhere I think what really helped was understanding him. And understanding between us about not playing this guy as the typical hero. You know, not projecting him like that. Going as close as we could. And then when we got to meet him, you know, just to see that body language and to see how, you know, he is. And what was really nice, and what I noticed was they are very, very gentle. And they have, वो तेजी बहुत होती है इनमें, you know, they are very polite, they are very humble. But they will say something, and you will say, hold on, what does that mean? You know? So, I mean, to get those little things into the script was very exciting for us. And psychologically, I think I'm quite okay right now, no? I don't know. I hope I don't
Just
have,
about.
yeah, just about. I think on the edge.
Yeah.
Yeah, but a lot of people didn't mess with me. That was and another interesting thing had happened, and which I'd like to share with everybody. I was one day dressed like him, and I was in Gawli as we were doing some shoot there, and his brother-in-law, okay, walked up and came and touched my feet because he thought I was him, and I thought that for me was like the biggest thing that could happen. You know, I mean, that was really, really incredible. So, yeah, it was really something special, and let's hope it's as special as we are making it out to be when you all see it.
I think it does look special. It is very special, and I personally feel it's going to do something that has never happened before. It's going to cross all these boundaries of mainstream, independent, festival. It's just, going to be something that everyone can come and see, like you said, in different layers. And I want to thank you both for coming here, sharing with us this first look, the story behind Daddy, the magic of Daddy, and for putting yourselves through what seems like an arduous task, but I think it's going to be amazing. So all of you, be ready for next steps. Thank you so much for coming here. Thank you.